If you jump really fast, you might survive the blast.
Wait!
The Amateur is directed by James Hawes with a screenplay by Ken Nolan and Gary Spinelli. The film stars Rami, Malek, Rachel Brosnahan, Caitríona, Balfe, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Laurence Fishburne. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, when his supervisors at the CIA refuse to take action after his wife is killed in a London terrorist attack, Koa takes matters into his own hands. I am a fan and enjoyer of spy films, from something like 007 to something like recently with Jason Bourne, or even something like Captain America: The Winter Soldier being my favorite of the MCU films, that being a political espionage film. Needless to say, I do enjoy me a good espionage film. Regardless of what it is, I'm always ready for it. I always get myself really excited to see what the film can tackle with regards to that genre. With this, I was kind of curious, especially with having an actor like Rami Malek, who isn't playing kind of a typical action star that you mostly tend to see with the different 007 actors, or Matt Damon as Jason Bourne. And while I can say that the potential is there is hope that this movie can really hit the strive of having a hero who doesn't do the typical things that we usually tend to see with a lot of action heroes. Not to say that that's anything bad, but I'm also just saying that, hey, I am open and willing to go along with what the movie's got with regards to talking about the political and spy elements of this film, but it is ultimately so bland, and that's the disappointing part about this film, is formulaic feeling of this film. But before giving my issues, here are the positives that I have to say with it. The performances are good, I think, for the most part, but really, Rami Malek is nervous and calculating as Charlie Heller, a CIA cryptographer who seeks vengeance for his wife's death. Malek does keep the film interesting by playing a person who can't truly kill people. He's not doing it, like I said, in the normal fashion that we usually tend to see with the movies that I mentioned, or even something like Mission Impossible. I do appreciate the fact that you have a guy who isn't necessarily somebody who a natural born killer. He's scared, he's nervous, he's afraid, feels as if he cannot do the things that the CIA operatives in the field can do, but he is still willing to go along and have his vengeance by going out and still doing these things and still holding his own in a way. The cinematography is grounded. Cinematographer Martin Rue makes sure that the film stays personal and focused on Hella's revenge, feeling a little bit real. I say a little bit real. I do like the fact that Martin Rue does keep the film focused on Charlie and his revenge narrative that drives him, because if it had not, I think it would have lost a little bit of its own feelings and drive for what the film is going for. But I am respecting the fact that you do have a film that does make this as personal as it can be. And for making this follow our main protagonist, it sticks with him, and it still follows with what he has got planned. The music is atmospheric. Composer Volker Beltman keeps the tone as serious and in line with what the movie is, and that is how it should be. I do like how the film does keep the atmospheric vibe to it because of this score and how it sets the mood and tone of what the film is supposed to be. And I do find myself really going along with how the film plays out because the score does set the tone for the scenes in question. The production is effective from the sets and locations. It does make for an effective usage of the production crew of this film, and also for a $60 million budget, it's not bad looking. It's actually quite interesting to see how much money was still used into the settings and locations, and making sure that everything did feel at the very least as natural as it can look, and actually look how it feels. And I am at the most part satisfied with that. If it had been more grand and big for what it is, it would have kind of run steam with its budget, but thankfully they were able to stay within that confine narrative of being within a little bit of limits. And the pacing and runtime is quite fast. Every scene keeps going and it doesn't slow down. With a runtime of 2 hours and 3 minutes, it went by pretty quickly. I was surprised on how much this movie was going the minute it started and never let up. And I was kind of impressed by that. If it was dragged out, then that would have said something. But no, they just managed to keep this movie going and never slowing down to the point of making everything stop dead in its track. It just knew to keep the movie going. That said, it was another formulaic spy film that you've seen before a dozen times and, of course, done better. Let's face it, as much as I give this movie credit for having a hero that doesn't do a lot of killing, I will say this, it does follow the tropes a lot of the times with spy movies that they just can't escape it. Here are the negatives. The direction is lacking. Director James Hawes doesn't leave any style or impact to this project. Honestly, feeling like anyone could have done this film. It's somebody along the lines of who can have a little bit of style, a little bit of flair to the movie, because when you watch the film, there's nothing signature about this movie that will leave an impact with how it's directed. It just kind of feels like it's just another film in a long line of vigilante espionage films that you've seen before. And there's nothing new to it that feels refreshing in the way it's directed. The story is repetitive. If you've seen one spy slash vigilante movie, this is nothing different. I'm not asking for original, but I am asking for something that's a little bit memorable. That's the problem with this film, is that because it's so formulaic and because it follows the template that you've seen in a lot of these types of films, it starts to kind of feel like repetition. And when it does that, it doesn't feel like there's nothing new that this movie can add with regards to any sort of memorable moments. It just kind of feels like it just has to hit the beats of a lot of these movies, and quite frankly, they kind of all feel like a dud. There's nothing about it that stands out, and it just all feels very formulaic in that way. The writing is bland. Writers Ken Nolan and Gary Spinelli make a script that feels and sounds derived from other films. The actors honestly makes this sound at least a little bit better, and I mean that really, because if the actors weren't doing good, I will tell you the script in this feels as bland and as boring as it could possibly be. Dialogue just kind of feels like things that are just ripped from other films and just plopped into this without any sort of feeling or any sort of impact to it. It just feels like another recycled script that was just thrown in and blended together to make a very formulaic script. The editing is inconsistent. Sometimes it's edited choppy and poorly done, and other times it's fine for the most part, and it's just feeling like it's all over the place. There's no consistency with the editing. It is just kind of either having scenes that are normally fine to then action, or just even like intense moments being super quick cut most of the time. And I found that very distracting and very disappointing to see a spy movie do this type of editing, really. Like when the action happens, boy, that editing is sure coming in handy, but in all the wrong ways, because they chopped and just spliced a lot of bits of action into this film to make it feel like it's super fast, and it is not working. It's done really badly. The villains are boring. Nothing about them are both memorable or intimidating. They just feel like background goons, if you ask me. There's nothing about these villains that stands out. Yes, say that Michael Stuhlbarg, who is a really well respected actor, underappreciated one at best, but even then, he's not given much. And the other two villains, I could care less about who they are or how terrifying they can be. They just kind of feel like they are just background henchmen that just don't add much to this film other than just being the main drive that Charlie is going after. That's it. There's nothing else that these villains add other than just, I need revenge on you and you and you. And that's it. Nothing much to it. Yep, it's just another run of the mill spy film that audiences, if you ask me, won't remember. I did see this with a big crowd, surprisingly. Just sat there with them, and I just am like, are these people really going to remember what this film was? Other than just, yeah, Rami Malek's carrying this movie. For as much as the cast are carrying this, it's just not enough to save it all. And that's the unfortunate part. As much as they could try, as much as they are putting a lot of work and a lot of effort, that still don't mean anything by the end of it. And ultimately, it's just another dud. That's all it is. It's just another film in the spy genre that's just out that nobody's going to remember. It's just going to be another dime a dozen that you come across. And while there are always a few exceptions in that genre with good ones, this is just one where it's like, all right, well, if you came across this on a streaming platform, I don't think anybody's going to bat an eye or even remember it, even watching it on a streaming platform, if you ask me. I'm going to give The Amateur a 5 out of 10. I found this movie to be very average and very underwhelming. And for this film to really have a lead that isn't primarily known for action films and was trying to go with a different type of hero at the same time, it's just crazy on how much this movie just could not save itself from how formulaic and derived from other movies it is. And real quick, the story for this is so weird because there are even instances of this movie where I'm usually fine with logic not always making sense in spy films because, of course, it's not real. A lot of this is all movie magic, but even then, I was just sitting there like, bullshit. That would never happen. Like, there's a part in this movie where Rami Malek looked at a reflection of a mirror and they enhance, and they were able to find that person. I'm like, bullshit. There is no way that that would ever happen. We don't have any sort of technology that could even remotely get close to that. Or how sometimes, like, even cameras won't pick up on certain things, or Charlie is able to hack into everything. I'm like, okay, as much as I respect that this movie is trying to have a main character that doesn't do a lot of the violent aspects of this film, at the same time, the logic in this movie with regards to how he's able to get into things, it blows my mind. It honestly makes me laugh a lot of the times, and it is just really funny though to see how much that this movie is just like he's just really good. I'm like, no, you guys are just really stupid at your job. But hey, it's a spy film. Nobody's gonna really bat an eye about that. But still, that's something that I found funny about it for the most part. So soon I will be doing a review for Warfare, and then actually soon Sinners. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other reviews coming soon.